Hello and welcome to the latest video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. We are looking ahead to Fantasy Premier League Game Week 26 and this time we are focusing on the underachievers on those goals imminent table. What we'll do is explain a bit more about the table and how underlying stats can help predict our future returns in the game. We'll also look at its sister table, assists imminent. We will reveal our Game Week 26 transfer and captaincy plans. In addition, we'll take this time for more. Yes, indeed. You lucky people. We're going to take questions for the end of the stream. So have a think about those and post those in the live chat. All of those joining us in the live chat, welcome. And have a think about those questions towards the end. When we look at our teams, I'll sort of prompt you to ask those questions. Is it a normal game week? Is it just an innocent game week? The current game week certainly isn't. It's been an absolute nightmare for many people, but there's still a couple of matches to go in the double game week. My name is Joe, and joining me to unearth some of those under the radar gems is Tom Freeman, Fantasy Football Scout's deputy editor. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks, Joe. Looking forward to the FA Cup fifth round, which we've got happening tonight and tomorrow, which has, big implications for FPL and chip strategies and things like that. So that's to come. And we've also got two matches, haven't we? Like you just mentioned, then we've still got Arsenal and Liverpool in action tomorrow night. So looking forward to having a chat and going through some plans for the next few weeks and going over a few players who might have kind of being a bit under the radar. So yeah, should
Definitely.
be good.
So to timestamp this, if you're joining us late, this is taking place on Tuesday during the day. That is before the FA Cup matches. There are a number of matches that have implications for whether or not they blank in Game Week 28 and our planning for Game Week 29, where we know the doubles that are taking place then already, but also our planning in future game weeks. The problem for me, I know I'll be looking, and I know many people are looking at that Leeds Fulham result, because that could dictate whether Liverpool have a blank or not. Also, I'll be looking at, I think it's the Leicester result, because Leicester and Brentford will go ahead there, which would be handy for those who want to invest in a Brentford attacker. Welcome to Gavin, John, Nassim, James, Rob, A. Dawson. I wonder if that's Andy Dawson. Could be. I think we mentioned Mr. A. Dawson before, actually. And Tim, amongst those in the live chat. Thanks for joining us. Do subscribe and do tell your friends to subscribe. Do press that like button. I've obscured the number of likes, so I don't even know how many likes we've got here, but I know there's getting towards nearly 100 of you watching in the live chat so far. It does get a bit more as we go on, so do press that like button. That's good. Oh, Let's Talk Vinyl is in as a vinyl record collector myself. Welcome, Let's Talk Vinyl. And FPL Bateman's just joined us as well. You're all joining us. It's great stuff. Okay. Game Week 26 is fast approaching, but let's have a look back at Game Week 25 and see how we got on. Now, the goals imminent table, this is last week's one. Hardly any of them played, so we didn't get any. That's not our fault. McAllister at Brighton blanked. Mitrovic at Fulham didn't play, blanked. Nketiah subbed for Arsenal. Cher at Newcastle didn't play. Solanke at Bournemouth got an assist, but no goal. Tony at Brentford didn't play. Utara at Bournemouth blanked for us. Bailey at Villa blanked for us. Wilson at Newcastle didn't play. So yeah, Tom, looking at that list there, we just unlucky. They just weren't playing, were they? So we couldn't get a goal.
No, exactly. And Bournemouth had that really tough fixture against City, didn't they? And like you say, Solanke got the assist, but that isn't a game you go into expecting them to get anything from. So I suppose the only talking point really from that is Nketiah, who was, of course, benched, much to the frustration of both of us. I think we both own him, don't we, Joe? And
Nketiah, no, I don't own him. So
you don't? Okay, much to my frustration.
Not my frustration, because I've got Martinelli.
Martinelli. Oh, okay.
So it was smug
Martinelli owner. Yeah, okay. Well, to myself and the other Nketiah owners who are no doubt watching, it was frustrating, but he's played a lot of minutes recently, Nketiah. Trossard came in. I kind of thought when I saw the lineup, Martinelli might be pushed up through the middle, but it was actually Trossard who played that role, and he played very well. And it was good for Martinelli, I think, having Trossard, who moves maybe a bit more like somebody like Jesus. I think he was getting in some better positions. And so let's wait and see what happens tomorrow. I'm hopeful that Nketiah comes back in, but it's by no means certain. So yeah, not great timing with the double, but is what it is.
And now I imagine he will come in. Trossard's obviously this man that he can fill in for Martinelli, can fill in for Trossard. Who knows? I mean, all three of them now are a minute's risk. But I mean, as a Martinelli owner, and I think Nketiah owners as well, Arsenal are just a good side. I don't mind Martinelli, as he did. He scored when he came on as a sub. They're just a good side, and I just want having one of their attackers. I mean, I've got Saka as well, but having someone like Martinelli or Nketiah, I don't mind because they're much more likely to get a return in 30 minutes or 60 minutes than some other attackers and other midfielders in sort of lesser teams. I mean, Arsenal and City are gunning for the actual Premier League title at the moment. So they're the two best sides. So it just makes sense to have players there. And, you know, with Man City, it's a little different because sometimes they can be out of the side for weeks on end or never play. But much more for Arsenal, I don't mind. I think Nketiah owners, as you said, you can feel okay, and it probably get your return in this next match. Let's have a look at the assists imminent. Oh, a bit more luck. We have one, but once again, loads of players just weren't playing. So Trippier didn't play, March didn't play, Gross didn't play, Ward-Prowse did play, Nonto I played, but somehow managed to get a yellow card off the bench for, what was it, over celebrating? So for being too excitable. I mean, how rubbish. Anyway, Sancho didn't play for Manchester United. Neto Wolves did blanked for us. Bowen, hurrah, got an assist for us. He played. Rodri didn't get anything, and Partey as well didn't play. I don't believe. Didn't come on at all. So
yeah, I think he came on as a sub, didn't he?
So I mean,
very late.
Yeah, but Bowen we've been talking about here. I mean, he is the champion of the game week for the assists imminent table, but. Yeah, he's been. I mean, I'm quite keen on Bowen for a future West Ham double. He looks quite a reliable source of points, doesn't he, at the moment?
Yeah, he is at home. We put him in the scout picks, and we had quite a few replies going. You know, what is Bowen doing in there, basically? But at home, he's a good pick, I think, and he hit the post as well. He got the assist, which you can see on that table there. So I think he was a little bit unfortunate to come out with 6 points. You know, he looked really, really lively. Now, West Ham have a double game week in 29, and both of those games are at home. I think they play Southampton and Newcastle. So that might be a time if you're playing your chips, or even if you're not, that might be a kind of a midfield differential worth looking at, and knowing that both of those games are home fixtures. So yeah, he looks good. And then, I mean, there was a lot of blanks on there from players not playing, like you said, Joe, before, but you got Ward-Prowse and Gonto are both playing under new managers as well. So it's quite interesting to see how they fared. Now, Gonto was out quite wide and he was taken off. Was it on? I think it was bang on 60 minutes.
I mean, they needed to get a goal and they took off.
Yeah,
he took off Nonto. That to me sends massive alarm bells.
Yeah, because Somerville was the one who came on for him, I think, and he's obviously a good prospect and he's looked good as well since coming into the team. So that's a bit of a concern if you're a Nonto owner. And then Ward-Prowse as well. Now, Sellers has come in there and he's a player which maybe some people were looking at with the double in 27 in mind, but he's been playing really deep under Sellers. He hasn't had a penalty box touch in either of his games, which tells you. So then everything is on that set piece threat. And he is on penalties, so of course he can return. But we got excited about Ward-Prowse a few weeks ago because he was playing in this kind of number 10 role under Nathan Jones, and that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case anymore. So yeah, I'm not quite as hot on him as I was a few weeks back.
Okay, so with the goals and assists imminent table, they're the last 4 matches. So what we do is we'll have a look at the latest ones there. There'll be some new names there. There'll be some familiar faces as well, because obviously a lot of these players, particularly Newcastle and Brighton, they didn't play. So expected them to be hanging around, not because they have been poor, but just because they just haven't got on the pitch. Because they had a blank fixture. To remind people, the goals imminent table looks at those who could be due to score a goal. It's a minimum of 10 goal attempts with a maximum of 1 goal, and it's sorted by expected delta for the last 4 matches, which is the difference between what they have scored and what they should have scored, according to the expected goal professors out there. And it has to be matches rather than people say, why not game weeks? Because there's loads of blanks, loads of doubles. So we need it to be fair. So they played, they had the chance to play the same number of games as well, which is why we will have some injured players on there because they perhaps be coming in for injury. There'll be a certain Arsenal striker that I've now elevated back onto the table. I've been manually removing him each week because he's been nowhere near. He's possibly nowhere near, but he's getting nearer. And so I think it's time that he came onto that table. So you'll see him there. And that's why he's on there, because it's the last 4 matches he has played. So the 3 main outcomes: they score more than a goal over 4 matches, you leave the table in a good way. Underlying stats drop off, you leave the table in a bad way. Forever stuck there, never to fulfill your expected goal promise. That is basically Brighton last year, Chelsea this year. Graham Potter is your manager, and your top player is Nathan Redmond. That's your basic forever stuck there in goals imminent or assists imminent purgatory. So let's have a look at game week 26 goals imminent table. Okay, this is last 4 matches, so I'll go down the list and Tom can give his thoughts as we go through that list. Top of the table, he's moved to the top, is McAllister at Brighton. He's had 4 big chances. He's missed them all. He's had 8 shots on target. He's been on this table for 3 weeks. There is promise of a goal involvement there. His expected delta, so basically what he should have scored. So he's no goals, but he should have scored well over 2.22. He's had 9 shots in the box, 14 shots. He's playing in a more advanced role. There's no Lallana. Lallana's out long term. So it looks like McAllister's going to be playing there. And if he continues playing there, we're looking at that. He's getting 14 shots away. He's getting... sorry, my phone's just gone. He's got 14 shots. He's got 9 shots inside the box. And he's got 8 shots on target. Yeah. He's good, isn't he? Is he the Brighton mid to get in?
Potentially. I mean, I'll ask for your input on this, Joe, being the resident Brighton fan. But his last 2 matches, he's been playing this number 10 role, hasn't we? We've mentioned before. And it's a really small sample, but I had a look at their stats just over the last 2 matches. Now, in those 2 games, I think McAllister's had 8 shots in the box and 4 big chances.
Yeah.
Now compare that to Matoma, who's had 1 shot in the box and 0 big chances.
Ooh.
Now, I don't think that there's anything specific or anything that I've noticed which is particularly different in Matoma's role when somebody like McAllister plays. But I just think that from watching Brighton, teams are paying more attention to Matoma now. I've noticed teams have been doubling up on him a little bit. I think Tete played really well against him in the last match. And so it's maybe allowing a little bit more kind of space if players are doubling up on Matoma. There's a little bit more space for maybe McAllister to kind of operate in. And Marsh is he's not on that table, but he's someone in the middle for me. So I think I do think that McAllister has definitely gone up on my kind of watch list a few spots, especially if he's going to continue in this role.
Yeah, definitely. I've got some more stats I'm not going to put them up on the screen, so I'll just sort of read them out. But we looked at Brighton attackers over the last 4 matches. So we haven't put the assist imminent table up yet, but we will do. And we could have some players on there. But this is just purely last 4 matches, whether they've scored lots of goals or not. Undav is top in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty. He should have been involved in a goal every 91 minutes. That's pretty much every game he's played, but he's only had 2 starts, and that's key there. Welbeck also has only had 3 starts. He is next on there, as you can tell, with that attacker. Minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, every 106 minutes. Then you got Solly March, and that tallies with what I see in the eye test. He's the most advanced of those midfielders, especially amongst those 2 wingers that they play. And he's the one that gets in attacking positions. Is he the best at scoring? Well, probably not. But is he the one who's more likely to get advanced and be in those scoring positions? Yes, I think he is. Minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, every 130 minutes. He has, in fact, got a goal, and he's got 17 FPL points over his last 4 matches. So pretty good for 5.1. Then you've got McAllister, who is the underachiever king of this table. So he's only got 7 FPL points last 4. He has started all 4 though. Minutes per expected goal involvement every 139 minutes. So that's still pretty good return. His expected goal involvement, so that's goals or assists, is minus 2.51. He should have been involved in 2.5 goals, which is really good, but he hasn't been, which is really bad. But we want him to be. Next up, Evan Ferguson, got 14 points. He has scored in his last 4, minutes per expected goal involvement every 206 minutes. He's actually overperforming. He's assisted and he's got a goal. And in terms of expected goal involvement, he's actually he should have only really been involved in 1 goal, but he's got a goal and an assist, so he's slightly overperforming. Matoma is next on the list. Minutes per expected goal involvement every 264.7 minutes, so that's really lagging behind some of these others like March and McAllister. He has scored though, and he got 25 points in his last 4 matches. So in terms of actual returns, he is your man. He's the one that looks great. He's the one that can pull out a worldie from absolutely nowhere. But having said that, the others are getting many more points. And there's that point that Tom was making, just that one shot over those that period, which is not so good. In fact, he's been overperforming, a bit like Ferguson. He's got expected goal involvement delta. He's overperforming to the tune of about 2/3 of a goal. And then you got Pascal Gross, the forgotten man. 9 FPL points last 4. He's had 4 starts, minutes per expected goal involvement every 333.3 minutes. But he is underperforming. He should have got a goal or an assist over that period, but he hasn't. So he's an underperformer, and he's going to be very, very low owned. Lots of options, aren't there? It's quite probably worth getting a couple in, isn't it?
Yeah, depending on your chip strategy, knowing that they'll probably blank in 28. But yeah, there's definitely loads. There's loads to like there, and Solly Marsh as well. I said that he was kind of before. He's in between in the kind of the goal threat, but what he has in his locker, which we'll come on to in a bit, is real assist potential. And so when you combine that with his kind of goal threat as well, he's right up there alongside McAllister for me. And of course, Matoma, great option as well. Struggled a bit of late, but we can't just base it on 2 games. You know, he's still there, and he's still going to be a real threat for the double game week. So yeah, 2's appealing, isn't it? So
Yeah,
if you can make it work.
Definitely. So yeah, it was good to read those stats out there, just because Brighton have a double, and then they have a blank, then they have a double. So they're going to be pivotal to what we do and how we use chips and how we navigate them. All such great value as well. But McAllister's looks like the one to have at the moment. Next up, Mitrovic. Worth keeping Mitrovic, do you think? 2 big chances, missed them both. A couple of shots on target out of 12 shots inside the box, just 2 on target. Worth keeping?
I don't think so, and I don't think it's necessarily because I think he'll do badly when he plays. I think he'll do okay. He was in a bit of a slump before getting injured, but he's a good player. But I just think that the fact that Tony's got this double, Watkins is emerging and playing really well. I think it's going to be I think for anybody to keep Mitrovic, I don't think it's very likely. So I think if you own him, I think there's obvious routes to go to, isn't there? Who are going to play more games than Fulham. So.
Okay, I'll put Jesus on here. He's been on here, and I've manually taken him off, but it's nearing a return, maybe. So he's had 6 big chances in the last 4 matches he played many months ago, and he missed the lot of them. But he's had 5 shots on target, and he's almost just below. He should have scored at least a couple of goals in those last 4 matches he played. He's been on this table quite a lot, but I've just sort of manually removed him. So to be fair, I put him on for the last 4 weeks. 17 shots inside the box and 19 shots in total. What's the latest with Jesus? I mean, near a return? Is he running on grass? Yeah, what's the latest?
Yeah, I think I saw an update yesterday on Football London which said they were hoping to get him in the squad before the international break, the next international break. Now that falls in between game week 28 and 29. So maybe a bench appearance in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. They're going to integrate him slowly, aren't they? Because they've actually been doing okay without him in terms of, they had a bit of a wobble, didn't they? But they've been okay for the last 2. They're back to scoring a few goals. So I don't think they're going to rush him back. But obviously it's a worry if you're an Nketiah owner, as well as kind of Trossard. You've got Jesus coming back. So I think people who own him have got to be looking at an escape route. Maybe not just yet, but just be wary that after the international break, Jesus could be getting back in the fold.
Yeah, so Nketiah's stats are obviously he only has sub appearance, so his stats are very similar to what they were last time. Lots of shots inside the box, none on target. Nketiah owners after this game week should probably start to be worried. You think sort of game week 28, 29 could be real worry time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have to. I think as long as he gets back in tomorrow, I think he'll carry on probably starting games. And Jesus isn't going to just walk straight back into the starting 11. But I think you just need to be aware of it and have another forward in mind for that slot, probably from 29 onwards.
Okay. Solanke, no one's looking at Bournemouth, but they've got a double. They survived the blank.
Yeah.
And Solanke, every time on this goals imminent table, he hasn't scored, but he's assisted. He's got a return. So slowly, some of these Bournemouth assets are actually getting returns. He's had 3 shots on target. His expected goal involvement is delta is minus 1.4. So he hasn't scored, but he's got lots of assists. But he should have got a 1.4 of a goal, so well over a goal. So 10 shots inside the box, 13 shots in total. And these are good numbers, really. So I mean, what a differential! I think I can't believe I'm considering Solanke.
Well, I owned him earlier on in the season. Did you, Joe, as well? Or
no,
did you have him?
I avoided him. I think that was because I was
okay.
I probably did it for laughs because I was on the Scoutcast then, and I think they were all getting him in, and I've decided to be belligerent and not.
You were stubborn, yeah. So, well, yeah, I owned him, and I think he did all right for me, for my memory recalls. Well, but yeah, no, I think he did okay, and I think double game week 29 for Bournemouth, so that's probably the time that people will be maybe free hitting or wild carding. So there might be a spot for him. I mean, he's only 5.5, isn't he? He's very cheap. I think he's on penalties as well. He's the kind of the talisman of that team, isn't he? And so, yeah, I'm not ruling out Solanke. Certainly not in the next couple of weeks, but possibly around the double. He could be in a kind of a decent under the radar option.
Share with Newcastle, he dips in and out this table, doesn't he? But he tends to drop off because the stats are dropping off. So there's a lot of promise there. But 5.1, Newcastle survive the blank and have a double, as far as I can tell. And he should have scored well over a goal, basically 1.27 of a goal. 9 shots inside the box, pretty good for 5.1 defender. I mean, alongside Trippier, he looks probably the one to get if you can afford it.
Double up, doesn't it, Joe? Because we're going Trippier.
Yeah.
So, well, most people. He hasn't done great recently, but his stats are still good. So it just depends if you want to double up on them or not. I'm not quite at that stage yet where I'm that confident in them to do that. But he's definitely the next best, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And then we got Tony, who I was very tempted to put on the thumbnail for this to pull people in, lure people in, because Tony, with Brentford, like Brighton assets here, are going to be in demand. Game week 27, they double. It's possible, depending on FA Cup, he could have a game week 28 match, and then he doubles again in 29, like Brighton do as well. I mean, I'm even if Nonto has a game in 28, I'm tempted to just swap Nonto for Tony and just whatever for game week 28, because he looks captainable, doesn't he, for game week 27? Two big chances, missed one. 4 shots on target, 9 shots inside the box, 13 shots in total. Should have scored at least 2 goals. He's in fact scored 1 goal over his last 4 matches. Tony, I'm going to say the word essential. He looks essential to me.
Well, I think he's the number 1 forward target now, isn't he? I think everybody's got Haaland in their teams already, and I think Tony's now next on that list, I think, for we've got that blank out the way. So I mean, you went over the fixtures there, Joe. They're very good. They've got Fulham at home, then they've got this double against Everton and Southampton. They'll probably blank after that unless Blackburn get a win tonight, and then if Blackburn do win in the FA Cup, and it means that Brentford play, I mean, everybody's going to be going to him, aren't they? But yeah, he looks like an excellent option. Brentford are playing really well. I don't think they've lost since October, so they're playing well. He's the talisman. He's on penalties. He's going to play every week for you. No rotation worries, and yeah, there's absolutely loads to like. And he's kind of emerged at the same time with Watkins, so suddenly we've kind of got two forwards around that kind of 7 million price point, which are really, really appealing. And Tony probably edges it though because of that double.
Yeah, we're starting to look at a change in the forward line now. Haaland, Tony, and Watkins looks like a really good triple up front.
Yeah.
Which means for Kane owners like myself, Kane with a possible blank in Game Week 28, a very likely blank.
Yeah.
No double in Game Week 29. Game Week 27 could be the final Kane match for me, but we'll see. Wilson's next at Newcastle. I mean, five big chances. He's been on this table for 5 weeks now. 12 shots inside the box, 13 shots in total, 7 shots on target. Great stats, brilliant stats. And he's always on here. He's not scoring, but we know he's capable of it. It's just, for me, I just think he's just too injury prone to even consider with all these doubles and every place and transfer is precious at the moment. Do you think?
Yeah, I think he will. I think there will come a time this season when we're probably looking at Wilson again, but he's had quite a few niggles, like you say there, Joe. And they play in 28, which is appealing, but everybody's looking at, Tony now. They're looking at Watkins, and he's behind at the moment. So.
Next up, Felix at Chelsea. His first week on the table, so he looked really good when he started. Then got a red card. Then he scored, so everyone suddenly alerted to him. Then Chelsea as a team have not performed to what they expected stats were. So Felix is no surprise to see him on here because he looks the best attacker. Chelsea, 3 big chances. He's missed 2 of them. 8 shots on target. 7 shots inside the box. So he's actually on target from long range as well. 15 shots. So he's shooting from everywhere. 15 shots, 7. Yeah, so he's 8 from outside the box. 7, about half inside the box as well. He's going for it. He's like Harvey Barnes. He's just, as soon as he gets a whiff of goal, he's going for it. He should have scored at least a goal over the last 4 matches. Can we trust a Chelsea attacker? I mean, Felix looks the one to get, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Whenever you watch them play, he's essential to everything good they do. It's just Chelsea in a really bad moment, aren't they, under Potter? We don't know if we think he's going to be in charge for a bit longer, but you don't know. I mean, Chelsea could get rid of him at any minute. I think they've only won 5 of his 18 games in charge, haven't they? Yeah. So, it's not great. And it's obviously impacting their players. Havertz is a player which has appeared on this table for a long time. Recently, now he's dropped off because he's lost his place in the team, or he did the week before last. And Felix is here now, and I do like him. I think he's a really good player, but I just think, again, we talk about Tony, we talk about Watkins, and Felix falls into that price bracket. They don't blank in 28, which is nice, but I just don't think anybody's going to go there until we see something from Chelsea in an attacking sense, because they just can't score goals at the moment.
And next up, we got Fernandes. It's good to see him here because I know that if he appears on this table, he will drop off because he has scored, and because he might take a penalty, and he's on free kicks, but also just his general play. He tends to be involved. 5 shots on target, 9 inside the box, 12 shots in total. Last 4, 2 big chances. He's only missed 1 of them, so he's another one is taken. He has scored once, but he should have scored around another goal. So he's 0.81, so let's call it a goal. He should have scored a couple of goals instead of 1. I mean, 9.8 is slightly awkward price because he's neither a premium nor a value player. But I mean, I've had him in my team for a couple of weeks, not recently during the double, and he looks really good depending on doubles and things like that for Manchester United, doesn't he? He looks a pretty good player to get in.
Yeah. I was a reluctant seller last week. I really didn't want to, but because of the blank and the way the fixtures had fallen, I had to sell him. But it wasn't through any fault of his own. He was doing really, really well, and yeah, he looks great. And United in general look really good at the moment. So I think they've got Liverpool, Southampton, and then a very likely blank, haven't they?
Yeah.
But after that point, they double, don't they, in 29? So he'll be back on the radar soon, and a double up with Rashford when the fixtures fall kindly is going to be really popular.
Just before we move on to the Assist Imminent table, just welcome many more who've just joined us in the live chat. FPL veteran John Thornton, Francis, Bill, Colm, Historia Films, Nassim, and GWiz is on hand as well to complete the role that I took on earlier, urging people to like and subscribe. GWiz is carrying that theme on. He's urging people to press like and to subscribe, and so do follow his wise words there, and do that. So let's move on to Assist Imminent. This is a minimum of 7 chances created, just no more than 1 assist over the last 4 matches, not 4 game weeks. Let's see who's on it for game week 26. Trippier, he's always on it. Until he starts finally getting some assists. I kept him. I was going to get rid of him, but then looking at the planning, Newcastle just looked so pivotal to own, and Trippier is still the best defender. 19 chances created, 27 corners. Should have assisted at least 2. He's in fact assisted none in the last 4. 21 successful crosses, not just crosses, successful crosses. He's been on this table 5 weeks now. His stats are eye-popping. They are miles better than anyone else on this table. But yeah, Trippier, I kept him, so I feel pleased to have him. Some people got rid of him, so they can't bring him. Plays City next, so perhaps you might bench him next. But from game week 27 onwards, he looks like a good player to have, and he's pricey now, isn't he? If you want to get him back in.
Yeah, I think that was the reason why I was hesitant to sell him, knowing that got him for 5.1 million, I think, a long time ago. And even though he hasn't been returning as often as he had done in the last 3 or 4 game weeks, his numbers are still really good. You know, it's that assist potential. And so as soon as Newcastle's fixtures get better, Newcastle haven't been converting their chances recently either. As soon as they can kind of get Wilson firing again, and Isak and Bruno Guimaraes back in the team playing regularly as well, I think they'll be fine. And I think that Trippier will have a strong end to the season, I think.
Yeah, indeed. So I mean, I'm pleased to heap him. So let's go on a Brighton theme. March is next, and then Pascal Gross in terms of underperformers. So we talked about some of their stats already, but March 10 chances created, 9 corners. He's scored, but no assists. But he should have got 1.5 assists, whatever that means. So well over another assist. And 5 successful crosses, 5.1, and then Gross 5.4, 19 corners. So this is where his assist potential is coming from. So I think that looks quite a good thing to go for there. If you're going for pure corners like Trippier is, but as Trippier has shown, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to score, which is slightly annoying. So yeah, March, Gross, where do you?
I think taking into account, I think taking into account both tables, I think it's Marsh because it's that dual threat, it's that goal threat, it's that assist potential. Set pieces for Marsh is really important. I think he's created 5 big chances in the last 2 games. So I think that Marsh, taking into account all of this information, he's where I'm looking at the moment.
Yeah.
With McAllister as well.
Yeah, I am as well.
But again, I don't dislike Matoma. It's very, very difficult.
If I got 2 now, I would get March and McAllister.
So probably the differentials, I would say, Jack, because I think Matoma is going to be the heavily owned one, isn't he?
But annoyingly, he's probably, in terms of an actual footballer, he is the best.
Yes.
He's basically a professor of football because he went to university to study it before joining Brighton. So let's move on to Traore at Bournemouth. It's another Traore, 4.5, under the radar, this one. 10 chances created, 11 corners, 10 successful crosses. First time he's been on this table. Bournemouth, good fixtures. Might be beating the drop. Solanke is on people's radar a bit, but Traore, what 4.5. I mean, what an enabler this guy could be. What do you think?
Yeah, he's on set pieces. He's on all their set pieces apart from penalties. So that's obviously, if you've got a 4.5, a bit like Andres Pereira, if you've got a 4.5 who's on set pieces and playing regularly, he's immediately quite appealing.
Yeah.
I thought he was their best player against Man City. I watched the game on Saturday evening, and he was the one that stood out for them. So, yeah, definitely one I made a little note of it. And if you're looking for that enabler or potentially on a bench boost or something, if we're assured of his minutes, that's the only thing. He has been playing regularly recently, but that's the only thing to monitor there.
Okay. Havertz is there. So Havertz has been on the goals imminent table for many weeks and not delivering. He's hopped off there and he's joined this one. So 7 chances created. So he's become a bit more of a chance creator rather than a goal scorer for Chelsea there. So no corners, but 7 chances created, just 1 successful cross. So, yeah, I mean, what's happened there with Havertz?
I think it's just that role, isn't it, that he plays? He's a centre forward, but he's not really a centre forward. He drops off a lot. He combines with Felix. So I think he's always going to have that dual threat between goals and assists. But he was back in he lost his place to Fofana a couple of weeks ago. He came back in, but they struggled against Spurs again. So the worry is that, look, it's not happening for them at the moment. Is Potter going to switch it up again? So it's a no-go for now, but he's a player I have liked in the past. But we need to see a bit more from Chelsea, I think.
Definitely. Sancho, Manchester United, 7 chances created, 7.1 million he costs. I have to remind ourselves because I've seen him so few teams. But nevertheless, he has scored a couple of goals. Just 2 weeks has been on this table. He scored a couple of goals. Could be getting assists as well, according to the 7 chances created. Possibly not assured of starts, but Manchester United are doing well. He looks like he's getting back to his best. So could be a good differential. Do you think?
Yeah, he needs to get his place back in that team, doesn't he? But when he does play, he looks really good. So again, United players not on the radar right now, but by the time the double comes round, he's a player I've owned before, but I want to see him getting 75, 80 minutes each week before I go there, I think.
Okay. I've just someone in the live chat's just mentioned this. The RPMD has asked, "Is this a good double for Brighton?" So we're going to get questions later. So do put your questions in a bit later. But I will answer this now, just because it's quite timely. Given that they have Leeds, a new manager bounce, and Palace, who they haven't kept a clean sheet or scored more than 1 goal against in 7 attempts. The thing about both of these matches, Brighton have a really good track record against Leeds. I don't care who their manager is. Brighton tend to beat them. At whatever level. So that looks like a Brighton victory to me. And Palace against Brighton, it's a derby. It's the Pease Pottage Services near Crawley derby. And who knows what can happen there. I think that's why I like McAllister. If in doubt, go for the guy on penalties in a close derby. But yes, it could be a close match. It might not be a goal fest, that one. So well pointed out. Neto at Wolves. Probably no one's going to be interested in him, but he's created 7 chances. He's got 12 corners. He's been on this table forever, 6 weeks. So no one's going to look there, are they? Neto?
No, he's not. He's not fit. He's not playing. The guy that you want to look at if you are looking at Wolves is a couple of places down on the list, I think.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, we'll, before we get to him, we'll get Ward-Prowse. Southampton, double. In Gameweek 29, 9 chances created, 12 corners. We know all about the corners, free kicks, delivery, penalties. He has scored. He's been on this table seemingly forever as well, 6 weeks, 7 successful crosses. If we think Southampton are going to get some returns, get Ward. I mean, he's a good differential, isn't he, for Southampton double game week?
Don't hate it, no, because he's that minute man, isn't he? He's getting 90 week in, week out. He's on penalties, he's on set pieces. It's just that deeper role that he's playing now is a little bit off-putting. And it's not an easy double, is it, Joe? I think they play as at United and Brentford. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't massively dislike it, because he's 6.3 million and he's going to play 180 minutes, you would think. But it's just, if he was playing a little bit further forward like he was under Nathan Jones, he'd be an absolute no-brainer, whereas now there's a few question marks over whether he is the right player to go that game week, given that you might want to double up on Brighton. Yeah. So then spaces are becoming a little bit more.
We've only got 5 spaces
in
our midfield, and we've already listed so many we want. Sarabia. I don't even know. I barely know anything about him. I don't even know how to pronounce him. That will come as no surprise to people. But 5.5, created
Yeah,
7 chances, got a goal. I
he
noticed. I
did.
think it was Fabio Borgia
He
in
did.
our
Yeah,
live Hall of Fame. He got him in. I
he
believe he
did.
did. So taken 10 corners, 6 successful crosses. So he has scored, according to this, first week on this table. He's got assist potential as well. Those who got him in can give themselves a round of applause. They have unearthed an under radar
Absolutely.
gem
Yeah.
before the stats have actually shown it as well. So, yeah, you said he's the one to get if you want to get a Wolves player.
Yeah, I mean, I stuck him in the differential column in 24, so he was on the radar, and I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't go for him because I went for Iwobi in the end. And I think maybe I went there, I think, because I was putting too much weight on game week 28, which Everton definitely play, and Wolves, it's a bit 50-50 if they do. And that was what kind of swayed me towards the Everton player in that spot. But Sarabia is a much better player. I mean, he's a Spanish international,
Yeah.
wherever, came from PSG, it's a really good quality player there. He scores wherever he goes.
Mm.
And Wolves don't have much threat in terms of their attack, but neither do Everton
Yeah.
really. So I'm kind of looking back on that decision, thinking missed
But how?
opportunity. But
Why is he at Wolves? I mean, I've been educated about his track record, especially coming from PSG. But what? I mean, no disrespect to Wolves, but PSG to Wolves is pretty major
yeah,
going
I mean,
down.
I think the Lopetegui link is he's played under Lopetegui a couple of
Okay.
times before previously, and it was a long time ago. It was in kind of youth setups and things like that. Thinking, yeah, Spain under 21s or something, but possibly something like that. Having a native Spanish manager there
Okay.
who knew him might have kind of got him over. But yeah, I mean, it's still Wolves' attack. They're not prolific. They're not going to score loads of
No.
goals, but they looked better the other day with Jimenez and Cunha up front. Although Cunha then came off injured, and we
Okay.
need an update on that. And to be honest, Wolves, the moment for their players has probably passed anyway.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. Willian at Fulham. Fulham's moment's probably gone as well, but Willian has started to appear on this table first week. 8 chances created. He has scored in his last 4. Probably no one's going to look there, but because he's 5.5, I guess if he was like more of an enabler price, I might
yeah,
consider that. But I think most people, if they've got a Fulham midfielder who's cheap, they've probably got Andres Pereira in their side, and they're possibly looking to remove him, especially if Fulham don't have a fixture like Liverpool coming up soon, being on the FA Cup results. So yeah, we can probably skip talking about him unless you want to desperately say something
no,
about.
he's done really well since he came in, but
Yeah.
again,
No.
not on the watch list.
Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at our teams. Do have a think about some questions in the live chat. Do put a question mark on them so I can easily spot those questions. That would be great. So while Tom and I talk about our teams, have a think, and we'll have a live Q&A with the live chatters. So Tom, let's get your team up on the screen. You have got a 3-4-3 here so far. Do you want to sort of read it out and tell about your plans, who might go, and perhaps what the FA
Yeah,
Cup might tell you about what to do or whether you're going to save?
yeah, absolutely. So going through the team as it stands, this is before making a transfer. I've got Kepa in goal. I've got 3 defenders: Alexander Arnold, Gabriel, and Trippier. I've got 4 midfielders: Salah, Saka, Iwobi, and Rashford. And 3 up front: Nketiah, Haaland, who is my current captain, and Darwin.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the bench, I've got Ward, Andreas, Bueno, and a currently flagged
Okay.
Patterson as
I mean,
well.
for Andreas, it's not a bad fixture actually. Brentford away, so I mean it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So it's a good first
Yeah,
sub.
he was in ahead of Iwobi, and then I kind of
Yeah.
switched it round. But I will admit that's a 50-50 call if both players remain.
So I mean, it's just a normal game week. So this do you plan to hold? I mean, this looks holdable, certainly.
No, I think I'll make a
Ooh.
transfer now to get one of the double game week 27 players in, because they've both got decent
Yeah.
fixtures this week. So I think moving early, it works. So there's 2 options in midfield, I could either sell Iwobi or Andreas and move them to a Brighton midfielder, probably Solly Marsh.
Yeah.
Now, who I sell would likely come down to what happens in the FA Cup. Of course, Everton have a fixture in game week 28. Fulham might not. That depends on their result against Leeds tonight. So let's wait and see on that. The other option is potentially Darwin to Tony as well, which I could go early on. Now, Klopp is just come out of his press conference while we were on air. He spoke at 1:30. And I was trying to look furiously on my phone to get an update, and I'm just having a look now. I think it's he said, Darwin, we will see. We'll see if he needs more training time. He looked okay yesterday, but we'll see. Yeah. He then went on to talk about Jota and say that he'll be involved. So yeah, let's. It might be a bench role maybe for Darwin, but yeah. So those are the two options that I'm looking at. Brighton midfielder or Tony.
Okay, so what's
coming in?
You're thinking, because what's your current thing? Because you're one of these people who is stacked up on Liverpool, and you have a Fulham player as well. So if that Liverpool Fulham game is not going ahead, then what's your current thinking? Are you thinking of free hitting in game week 28 or riding it out?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm not committed to anything yet until we've had these FA Cup results, and once they're out of the way on today and tomorrow, and that is done, and we've got this schedule, which is at least where we know we're at for 28, then I can look at plans. I'm not even ruling out wildcard in this week, Joe. I could even wildcard this week. Set myself up for the next few weeks, and then potentially free hit in 32 and bench boost after that. Everything is open at the moment.
How do you set? I mean, this is a question for those thinking similar and not using a free hit in 28. How do you set yourself up for those doubles in 27? Further doubles in 29, bearing in mind many of those teams that you really want to invest in are blanking in 28. How? Yeah,
I mean, there's no perfect strategy, and I only had a very quick look a couple of days ago at this. It probably means that you have to go into game week 28 with maybe 9 players, something like that, I think. And it maybe means that you can't go quite as heavy on those teams that are going to then blank in double 27. But I think you can do it. But again, it's completely dependent on what happens in the FA Cup. Yeah. So until we've got that, it's really hard for me to sit here and say, yeah, I've thought through this, and this is how many players I've got, and this is going to work. But I think the thing at the moment is I'm just open to anything with that wild card.
Shaw made way last week. Was that correct?
Yeah, it was a -8.
So would you be? I mean, is he gone for a while for you, or would he come back on a wild card if you wild carded now?
Maybe in 29, but if I wild carded this week, no, because they play Liverpool, don't they? Which isn't a bad fixture, but I think you probably still expect Liverpool to score. Although maybe not after watching them at Palace, but normally you would. And then they've got Southampton, which is a really nice fixture. So for people held him, that's a really good kind of differential week to play in. But then it's the blank after, or at least we're pretty certain it's going to be a blank. I think. I think if Brighton or Man United win in the FA Cup this week, they blank. So. Loads up in the air at the moment.
Yeah,
but
what about
I think
captaincy as well? I mean, Haaland captain, but Saka's got that vice captain. That Bournemouth home game, that looks good as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But Newcastle aren't in a great moment at the moment, are they? I think is it 4 without a win, something like that. And I think Haaland at home is just he's my go-to. If I see a home game and Haaland. Unless it's against an Arsenal or something like that, I'm probably going to captain Haaland. So that's where I'm at the moment. And let's see what the FA Cup brings. And let's see the team, if he's rested, then that looks really good, because you would expect Saka to play tomorrow night, wouldn't you? And probably play 90 minutes. So if Haaland's rested and he's had a week-long rest leading up to this Newcastle game, I think that's really appealing. It's the early kickoff, which might put a few people off. Yeah. But I'm not bothered about that.
Yeah, that rest, as you point out, I can't actually remember. I'll put my team up in a second. I can't actually remember who I put my captain on. But I'll probably switch it to Haaland, because I think you're right. That rest there, a home game, Also, I mean, you have to take into account things like effective ownership. He will be more than 100% because he's so well owned. He'll be so well captained. Saka could be near, but I mean, I have a situation this week with my team because I've captained Salah, and so I hope I get returns there. But Saka's my vice captain, so I was obviously considering him. But he's effective ownership of 122%. So I don't want him to do anything he does, even just appearance points, is a rank drop. And I hate that in teams. So I could have, if I'd have captained him, then I would have at least got something from Saka and Salah. But what will be, will be. But yeah, Haaland's definitely a ranks drop if you don't captain him. And he gets any sorts of returns. Unless, of course, your alternative does better, like Saka. Okay, let's move to my one. So, as ever, very similar, but slightly different. Oh, I have captained Haaland, so I did have the same thought as you. And I've got Saka as my vice captain. I'm currently not sure what I'm going to do. So at the moment, it's a 3-5-2 with Kepa in goal, Shaw, who I kept, White, who I've still got, and Tarkowski, who I like the look of always. Because they haven't got much goal threat, but he is it. I've got Rashford, Salah, Martinelli, and Saka. All got, I would say, all apart from Salah have good fixtures because Rashford are playing Liverpool. And I've got Andreas there just because he's away to Brentford, could get returns. There, Mitrovic could be back as well, so he could get some assist potential there. But yeah, he's one of my iffy players to start. Haaland, my captaincy, and Kane as well. Kane always finds a way fame. And what did he do this weekend? He found a way, and he got another goal because that's what he does. He's playing Wolves away. On my bench, I've got Ward, I've got Trippier, who could come in for Andreas if I didn't make any moves. Trippier against City, I don't think I'm going to get clean sheet points there, but he might finally deliver on an assist. So it's probably worth putting him in. I've got Coleman. I finally got rid of Patterson. And okay. I don't know whether it was lateral thinking. I just got those Patterson's replacement, the elderly Coleman. But I got him in because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Because he plays in Gameweek 28 no matter what. Yeah. He doubles in Gameweek 29 no matter what. Sean Dyche loves him. And he's on some set pieces, corners, obviously crossing as well. So yeah, he's a great bench player, great cheap asset, and he could be very handy to no matter what I do going forwards. And I've got Nonto last on the bench because of the cheeky young scamp's yellow card from the bench. So I benched him in punishment. But
it's not a bad fixture, is it? Though?
No, I know, Chelsea away, so I might elevate him. I might end up just playing him. It's quite bench boostable in a weird way. But you see what I'm doing. I got rid of Doherty last week. I used this week's. A lot of people use this week's double to get lots of Liverpool players in. I got Salah in for KDB, but I used it to get rid of total non-players like Doherty, like Patterson, and last week KDB. So I've done it to sort of give myself a bench, give myself some options, give myself some players in 28. I was very strongly considering Mings at Villa as well with that same rationale. Just handy players to have.
Nailed on.
So I honestly don't know. I mean, any one of that bench could get me a double-digit return. Coleman could get a surprise goal. He's playing Forest away. Trippier could deliver on those assists, could get a free kick going in, could get a score. Nonto, he's playing Chelsea, who are rubbish.
Have you got much money in the bank, Joe?
And I've got 1.5.
So you could do, if Fulham were going to blank, you could do an Andreas to Brighton midfielder, like I mentioned.
Well, you second guessed me quite correctly there, because what I would be tempted to do if Fulham and Liverpool are definitely going to blank is move one of Salah. I mean, that's how much I rate Salah at the moment. Salah and Andreas are similar players to me. One of them to go for McAllister, just straight in. Yeah. McAllister in. If I did that with Salah, then I might elevate one of these guys to the team, like Trippier. it leaves me with enough in the money next week, enough in the bank next week to do Nonto to Tony, no problem.
Yeah.
If I do Andreas to a Brighton mid, then I have to take a hit next week to get Tony in. But nevertheless, I think it's a hit worth taking because it would mean removing whichever Andreas or Salah I don't remove to possibly another Brighton mid and go for Matoma McAllister, March McAllister. We shall see. But yeah, lots of options there. So this is a sort of 4-4-2, 3-5-2, 4-3-3. It's a
flexible.
Something for everyone. It probably is the most flexible team I've ever had. I don't know why, for like a really pointless normal game week, but I've made myself really flexible. Do live those in the live chat do have a look do have a think about some questions to put in. What I'll do is I'll go through some of the questions we've got so far. Do keep those questions coming. We'll sort of go until we run out of voice, or well, it won't be that long, but we'll go for a little while. So I'll go straight as soon as I find a question mark. FPL Tic Tacs. Would you hold Mahrez this week or replace with a Brighton midfielder? Probably either March or McAllister. Mahrez. Home to Newcastle. What will you do? He's had a break. He should play, shouldn't he?
You would think so. See what happens in the FA Cup. But if it's a home game and you think he's got a chance of playing, I might be tempted to keep him.
Yeah.
And then maybe look to make the switch the following week when you actually have that Brighton double in front of you, because we know what Mahrez can do, especially in a home game. But yeah, monitor his minutes, and obviously didn't play at the weekend, so he might start the FA Cup. But yeah, see what happens, and then kind of make your decision later in the week. But if you think he's going to play, and the City predictors you trust, whoever that is, whether it be Luke or Neil or whatever, if they're predicting starts for him, then could be a good game for him.
Yeah, I mean, I both of us are considering moving, some of our players we don't particularly want, like Wobie or Pereira or Salah even, for Brighton mids, and I think that's perfectly reasonable. However, Mahrez, I think if I had Mahrez now, I would just keep for a home game and just hope for the best. I don't think it's not urgent to get a Brighton mid in this week, but next week it becomes more of an urgency because of the double. Fafa asked Darwin to Tony. That's indeed the move you're thinking of as well. Is that starting to probably be the move?
Yeah, well, yeah, potentially. I mean, let's see what happens tomorrow night, and if he starts and how he performs. But even if he starts that match and gets a goal, he's still got United at the weekend, so it's a tough fixture anyway. So you might just be happy to and again, a lot will happen. A lot of that will depend on the blank as well. If Liverpool don't blank in 28, people are probably going to hold on to their Liverpool assets. If they do, and Darwin doesn't look completely fit, it's a no-brainer, isn't it, to move him on to Tony? So it's just a bit of a wait and see. I don't mind the move on paper, but a lot will depend on the FA Cup.
Michael Scott asks, would you hold Felix or move to Tony? I mean, I can see the attraction of getting Tony in, but Felix, he's on the goals imminent table. He's the best Chelsea attacker. If we think Chelsea are going to get anything, and they're quite a handy side, don't blank. I wouldn't make that move myself. I would give Felix a couple more game weeks. Would you?
Yeah, I can understand that. And Chelsea don't blank either, but at the same time, I think you're going to need Tony. So it depends. If you've got another route to him, maybe explore it. But if you haven't, and it's just a straight shootout between the two, I think it's got to be Tony, hasn't it? But yeah, it depends on your other. I presume Haaland's one of your other forward. Who's your other forward? Could you sell them?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, in my case, I've got Nonto, so Nonto's the one to go. But I would need some more money in order to do that. John Cahill asked, would you start Mings or Estupinan this game week, assuming we don't get an update on his injury? Yeah, Estupinan was an injury doubt, but Brighton are at home to West Ham, which could be a clean sheet there, and could be an attacking return. And Mings, looking down my list here, you're a Villa fan, so you will know immediately who Villa are playing. Who are Villa playing?
Palace at home.
Palace at home. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Both good fixtures, aren't they? That's a tough one, isn't it? That's a nice position to be in.
Yeah, the thing is with Villa is that we've been really, really good away from home under Emery, really poor at home.
Okay.
And that's which is unusual. But that, and then West Ham are the complete opposite that, who happen to be playing Brighton, are rubbish away from home, but have been really good at home. So I don't know, for Villa, I think that we can sometimes be a bit open. I don't know if we're a little bit more proactive at Villa Park with the crowd on our back to push forward a bit more. Palace have been terrible going forward though as well. They've had fewer shots than any other side in the last 6 game weeks. But I think Estupiñán has been so good, he seems to be becoming such an important part of that Brighton team. I would be tempted to play him, I think, Joe, just because of those attacking return potential as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think you could get points at both ends of the pitch there with Mings, just the clean sheet. And possible bonus. So yeah, plenty of options. I mean, it's a good position to be in. If you can, depending on who else you got, play both. Maybe go 4 at the back, 5 at the back.
If you get a Trippier, if you've got Trippier or something like that, I'd play both of them over Trippier.
I think they're both really good options there. So good game week ahead, hopefully. Lennox asks, should you keep Ferguson ahead of Brighton's double, or just go to Tony? Oh, okay. I'd be tempted to keep Ferguson and try and get Tony another way. So you've got Haaland, and it all depends who that other striker is. I mean, would you? I think Ferguson's got chance of returns though in a double.
You think in a double, Joe? Do you think he starts one and comes off the bench?
No,
in the other,
but
or
I
do you think
don't mind.
starts?
Like with Martinelli, I don't kind of mind them not starting. And I think even the Nketiah owners can think that as well. I don't really mind them not starting. I mean, 30. I mean, he's a really good striker, Ferguson. I'd take 30 minutes against tired legs, the old cliche of that. I think you could get. I think to remove him ahead of a double, I don't think is optimal.
Potentially.
But as you said, Tony is optimal. So Tony is better than him. But if there's another route to Tony and getting both, I think that would be really good.
I think that's good advice. I'd agree.
Moving down the list, Gabriel to Estupiñán. Ask Zoran, would you move an Arsenal defender like Gabriel to a Brighton defender? Not
this week. No way.
No,
I mean, they've got
Arsenal play Brighton.
Bournemouth at home. So I think if you're looking at the clean sheets odds this week, I would imagine Arsenal will be top for that. So not this week. I mean, even after that, I mean, Arsenal have got a very good defence. Partey's on his way back. I think I'd probably look to get Estupiñán, but again through somebody else rather than Gabriel.
FPL Tic Tacs is either a comedy genius or he's genuinely asking a question about defenders. Cash to burn? I've got 1.5 million in the bank. But yeah, Matty Cash to damn burn. Not sure I would do that. He could be just saying, have I got cash to burn though?
Yeah, I would imagine he is. I mean, it's got... I think he is, but it's very apt. Yeah, don't make that transfer if you're being genuine. If
so maybe he'll get back in the live chat and say, genuinely, Matty Cash to Dan
one, I don't think anybody owns Matty Cash. 2, I don't think anybody owns Dan Burn either. So I think we know the way it's going, but who knows?
Okay. Toby asks, would you start Robbo versus Manchester United or use the opportunity to, in fact, field an extra midfielder and get like the likes of March and Matoma in?
Yeah, I would do that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
I would as well.
quite having watched the Palace game at the weekend and a lot of Liverpool recently. I mean, I've got Alexander-Arnold in, but it's for attacking returns, isn't it? Yeah. You're not banking on them keeping. I know they kept the clean sheet, but they rode their luck at times, didn't they? And now they've got United, so then more than ever you're relying on attacking returns because they're probably going to concede. But United are playing very well at the moment, so I would kind of Again, it comes down to if they'll blank or not. If they're not blanking, then you might want to keep Robertson. But I think if they do blank, then I think getting that midfielder.
No matter what Liverpool do midweek after after the stream against Wolves, they're not consistently good. Whereas Manchester United are currently consistently good. So basically, if you've got someone else who's playing someone else other than Manchester United, play them if you can. I mean, that's why I'm actually tempted to get rid of Salah this week. I noticed on your Fantasy Football Scouts bus team for the week. Going ahead for Gameweek 26, Salah nowhere to be seen. Understandably,
No,
he's not in good
yeah,
form.
because you've got, we've got a budget there of 83 million each week on the scout picks, and you've got Haaland who's locked, and Kane looks really nice this week, who's in your team, Joe. So it's a case of you can't fit Salah in anyway. I mean, he hit the bar at the weekend, didn't he? But I think he looks better when Darwin's playing, and so I think for owners of Salah and Darwin, it's such a massive game tomorrow. I don't know if Darwin's going to start, but if they can both be on the pitch for 30 minutes or something like that, then you might get a return out of it, because they just look so much better with Darwin in attack alongside him.
We do have confirmation from FPL Tic Tacs. The cash to burn question was in fact a joke. Good, because Tom's pointed out no one owns Matty Cash, no one owns Dan Burn. Joe Rag asks, it says apparently Luke Shaw is a doubt for Liverpool.
Yeah, I read that. Well, I read that just before I came on. Well, it's kind of in the aftermath of the EFL Cup final. Something went up on United's website about 10-15 minutes before we came on air, and I had a very quick scan of it, and it said that I think him and one other player was a doubt for well, not a doubt, but they were monitoring him, and there was a chance he wouldn't play. So yeah, whether or not it's something significant which would rule him out of the weekend, I'm not sure, but the good thing is we'll hear from Ten Hag a couple of times before the weekend, after the match, and then it's pretty much press conference as well for Liverpool. So we'll know.
Sort of player. He's if he's fit to play, he'll play. I mean, he's wanted anywhere, centre back, left back, but if he's not fit, he won't play. So your sub will come on. So in my case, it'll be.
And this is if there is any kind of like small doubts from that cup final. An FA Cup clash against West Ham is the time for Malacia, isn't it? So it doesn't necessarily have to be anything too significant, but we should know in good time anyway.
Piaz83 asks Rashford or Saka for the captain for Gameweek 26. So ignore Haaland. Let's just say he's not considering that. Rashford or Saka. So, well, I mean, I own both, but I've got vice captain on Saka, so that probably answers that question. I just think it's a better fixture, home to Bournemouth. But yeah, Piaz's got a point. They're both really good options, aren't they? Liverpool are terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I think if it was at Old Trafford, I'd feel a little bit more confident captaining Rashford. But away at Anfield, I think he's a really good option this week. He's in the scout picks. He's in my team. He's in your team. We like him a lot. But for the captaincy, in an away match at Liverpool, I think I'd be tempted to go with Saka ahead of him.
Okay. Well, that's most of the questions I concede there. So what we'll do is we'll sort of wrap it up now. We'll say goodbye to everyone. Thanks so much for joining us in the live chat. Thanks for those who are watching, listening later as well. And a special thanks to comedy genius FPL Tic Tacs for his great cash to burn joke. And so especially well done to him, but also good luck to him and everyone else in Game Week 26, and especially when we look ahead to the FA Cup games that are tonight, which is Tuesday. We've got the final bits of Game Week 25 to wrap up. We might have some chip strategy in mind. There's plenty more videos and podcasts coming up from Fantasy Football Scout during the week. We've got burning questions, which I know they're going to be heavy on chip strategy as well. We've already had the Scoutcast. We've got FPL Harry. We have Gianni as well. Is going to give his thoughts after the FA Cup games with Seb. We've got team news coming up as well. Mark for those and Andy for those who listen to the members chat. Flapjack's got his tips of the week. We got Karam to wrap up. I probably missed. I did so much, so I probably missed someone out, and they're gonna have a go at me. So sorry, whoever I've missed out. Oh, I missed out. Az has got his team selection.
That was on purpose, wasn't it, Jay?
And I think that's it. But you can remind me, and I'll flag it up on my Twitter, whoever I've forgotten. Good luck all. Keep watching all our stuff, and good luck with the game week. See you soon.
Cheers, Joe. See you soon.